Mattheus, Executive Head of Marketing at Celsius, a very warm welcome. Lots to talk about. I want to start off with what seems to be a lot of marketing activity around termination rates. How important is this really to the consumer, or is it more important to the companies such as yourself?
I think both. I think termination rates as a term is probably more important to us as players, Vodacom, MTN, Telkom and ourselves. But retail rates is the most important thing for customers. And we don't call it retail rates, call it normal rates, cell phone rates. And I think the one can affect the other. Now, one of our competitors is saying that there's no link between the two, and we're arguing quite the opposite. So if the termination rates get changed, that could lead to a lower cost to connect for the average consumer. And I think if you look at some of the research, and we don't have it here, but you can look it up, is that South Africa has unfortunately got one of the highest costs to connect in the world. I mean, it's ridiculous. So people complain about a lot of stuff, complain about petrol prices, but it's regulated. Complain about Eskom, but people don't, in our opinion, complain enough about what they're paying for cell phones.
From a marketing and advertising perspective, how much more robust is this going to get, this tit-for-tat war that seems to exist between all the big players?
Well, I certainly can't speak for the other people, but I mean, from our point of view, it will continue. Our stated objective, and last year our positioning has been around the consumer friend. And I don't want to use a cliche of consumer champion or people's champion, but that's what it is. It's about saying, let's be transparent, let's bring down core rates. Now, if it means that we have to have a protracted war in the media, well, then, unfortunately, that's what's going to happen. But it's not our stance. Our stance is not worrying about what the other competitors are doing. We worry about what's right for the consumer. And so if you look at our latest bit of work that has come out, it's around people's champion. It's around asking pertinent questions. And it's not a new thing. It started last year. Where we said to people, what are you paying? Check your bill. And I think the average person doesn't know that. It's not about whether the phone, an Apple or a Samsung, is at $299. That's just the start of the issue. It's the real running cost. In other words, what do you pay per minute, and how many free minutes do you get?
So what's the objective of this new campaign, and what are you trying to achieve?
It's about getting people to question what they're paying, and I think it's the same stance that we used last year, is to say to people, as South Africans, we don't think people question enough. And I made the point about petrol and e-tolls and all these sort of things, but why not cell phones? Everyone's got one. Why don't people ask? Now, let's just ask a simple question. Why are some rates on prepaid more expensive than postpaid or contract? It's ridiculous. Why should it be? Where we created something called 99 cents flat core rate. So it's not about whether you're on a Thursday or under this type of area or that type of it's ridiculous. Why don't you just have 99 cents flat core rate? Then people can understand.
And isn't that the single biggest problem with cell phone and network advertising right now, is that the water has become so muddied, the consumer is simply unable to understand what it is that everyone's trying to say. Therefore, they just retreat. It washes over them.
Absolutely. It's too complicated. Now, certainly in the case of the two big networks, it's not in their interest to do that. Why would they do that? I mean, they're quite happy that the water's muddy. In our case, it's about simplicity. It's about transparency. And I mean, if you look at a lot of advertising these days, you look at car advertising, they've got it state from a CPA point of view. It's the so much residual. You've got to pay this. You can't hoodwink the customer. Now, I don't believe that has really come through in cell phone advertising. I don't believe it's not about whether the Samsung's at $299 a month. It's a question of what is your core rate. And unless we get to the stage where whichever body it may be, whether it's the Consumer Protection Act or another, our view is going to be that people need to know the total cost of ownership.
All right, let's move on to something else if we can. Your brand, it's a big brand, has just changed advertising agencies. That's always a tough call to make, isn't it?
It is, it's like any partnership. And I mean, we value, it's like a personal relationship or a business relationship. It's not something you take lightly, and it's a big decision, and it's something that you really think about. So, I sat with our CEO and we really debated it. And Ogilvy did great work for us last year. We just felt that, there was maybe a change needed and something else out there, and we've moved to draft FCB as a group, and so far, we're very happy with that change.
Can you try to define for me the relationship that should exist between the head of marketing with a big brand and an agency? Because that, I'm assuming, changes all the time. It's shifting ground, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think, there's certain industries, and not just ours, that are dynamic. We live in a world where things are ever changing, and certainly we've got formidable competitors. So one of the things that we need from our partners is an understanding of business. It's no use just making pretty pictures. Lots of top shops can make ads, and that's great. I mean, that's creative. And one of the big challenges is, normally you work with a client service person and the CEO of the agency and the top creative guy. And it's so important for us that the creative guy in particular understands why we need a certain piece of creative done, where we are in our life cycle, what challenges we are facing. And so that for me is paramount. It's not about just making a piece of work for the sake of it.
Critical these days that a creative understands what a balance sheet is.
Well, it is. It's business. I think marketing has grown up. It's I've got to account to shareholders. It's not my money. On the face of it, marketing may seem more fun than network engineering or accounting. But at the end of the day, it's a science. I can't go into a board meeting saying, well, I kind of just felt like doing this. No real reason to. Those days are gone. I have to be accountable, and so too is the ad agency.
I want you to reflect very quickly in conclusion on sports sponsorship. You've just tied up a deal with the Sharks. What was the thinking behind that, and what are you hoping to achieve?
I think the Sharks, now known as the Chelsea Sharks, are a fantastic brand. They're one of the most popular sporting brands in South Africa and certainly globally. So for us, it is about association. It's about positioning. You can't just sell to people with a price and a phone and beat them over the head the whole time. There's a great place for brand building. There's a great place for sponsorships. It's passion branding. It's wonderful. And if you look at traditionally what Natal Rugby or Chelsea Sharks have attracted, a lot of women, a lot of kids, they're very friendly atmosphere. And certainly with Jake White and John Smith, who I know well, they've got a winning brand. So for us, it's about association with a powerful brand. And hopefully we can take that forward.
The challenge is to leverage that creatively and imaginatively.
Yeah, of course it is. And I think, a lot of the challenges, not just with the Sharks, but some unions, perhaps it's not about rugby or netball or badminton. It's about understanding what the sponsor wants outside of the field. Now, for 80 minutes, the rugby guys are going to play, and hopefully they win more than they lose. And that's Jake White's primary job. John Smith's job is not that primarily. John is the CEO of the union, and from our point of view, we're working very closely with him to talk about leveraging. For us, that's paramount. We spend a lot of money on both the rights as well as the leveraging, and you've got to get people to be proximate with the players. And that for us is it's a non-negotiable.
You are on top of the log at the moment, so I wish you well. Doug Mattheus, Executive Head of Marketing at Chelsea, thank you very much for joining us.
And thanks very much.